Welcome to the Global Me podcast, your gateway to a world without borders. I'm your co-host, JC Prieto-Williams, principal at Williams Advisors International.
Whether you're seeking a new home abroad, exploring golden visas, or investing in global real estate, we bring you the insights to make it happen. I'm Shannon McDonald, founder of McDonald Coaching, where I specialize in expat and relocation coaching.
With a special focus on the US, especially Texas, we also dive into top destinations like Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Portugal, Spain, the UK, and the UAE.
Remember, if you want us to help you explore a new destination, we'll make it happen. So get ready to unlock opportunities and design your ideal global lifestyle. Let's
dive right in. Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome back to the Global Me podcast. This time around, Shannon and I were thinking that we could tell you guys a little bit of what we do and why we're doing the podcast and what we believe are our value add to everybody listening and those that are planning or are already living in Texas. So as a gentleman that I am, I'm going to let Shannon come and tell us, what is it that you have been focusing your time on with your clients, and what have you seen as the, kind of like the big questions or the big services or requests that you've seen from people that come to you for help?
Sure. Thanks, JC, for letting me go first. So I am sure that I've mentioned on this podcast a few times that I've lived a number of different places around the world. And so that's what's really shaped my current coaching practice. And so I started my career in Canada as a lawyer and only worked as a lawyer for a couple of years before moving off to Scotland with my now husband. And that just set off a series of international moves happening every 2 years or so all over the globe, which has been an amazing experience, but also required a lot of transitions, a lot of reinventions in my career. So every time we moved, I was thinking, okay, what can I do in this country where we are, given the job market, given my experience? I couldn't work as a lawyer very easily in our first move. And so I kind of gave up on that one and refocused. Had a number of careers, but what I found really frustrating was just this process of starting over every time and feeling like I had nothing to really show for all my experience, and applying for jobs and not having a CV that looked very marketable. I mean, I thought I have all this great experience, and if I could just get an interview and talk to someone, I could convince them that I can do this job. But when you are just one CV in a pile of other CVs with more linear experience than you, it just doesn't always translate into an interview. So after having kids, my priorities also shifted, and I wanted to work, but I wanted flexibility in my career. And so I thought, okay, what am I going to do next? And I started down this path that I'm currently still on of coaching. So I took a coaching certification course, not knowing exactly what I was going to do with it. I thought maybe I'd do some career coaching. I'd done some corporate training before in France when we lived there. So I thought maybe I'd, run workshops or something like that, which I really enjoyed. But it became really clear through conversations I'd have with my expat friends in Dubai at that time that there were so many other, mostly women, in the same situation as me, where they'd been moving around with their partners. They used to have a big, great career doing whatever, and then, took some time off because either they couldn't work in a certain country or they had kids and thought that was a good time to take a career break. And then the years pass and they are out of the game and not sure what to do next, and kind of in this limbo where this is exactly how I felt as well. Like I have all these skills, but I don't know how to use them. I don't know where to start, and also just losing a lot of confidence. And so I was having these conversations with so many people and thought, okay, I'm doing coaching now. Why don't I start coaching these people and try to come up with a solution? And so what I realized and what my clients realized is that continuity is so important when you're moving around, and creating a job that can move with you is what most of my clients really want. So something you can start in one country and take to another country fairly easily. I mean, it's not always possible to have something that's perfectly portable, but it's possible to have something that's nearly perfect. And so that's what I work mostly on with my clients is people who've been out of the workforce for a while and are living in a country that's not their home country, and they want to start something. Now, so not all of my clients want something portable. Some of my clients have relocated more permanently and just want to start a career or a business. But the main thread, I think, is that they all want flexibility. They're not wanting to work 100% full time. So they want something that they can do part time or three-quarters of the time. And that's what we work on. And it's really been rewarding to see the change that has happened in myself, first of all, being able to continue a career from one country to another, and in people that I've coached, seeing what they've been able to come up with and the creativity behind some of their ideas. So that was a very long-winded explanation, but that's where I
No, no,
started
it's good.
and where I am now.
So, but you do have like a course, right? That
Yes.
you offer,
Yeah, I do. I have
and
a program that I've put together. So it's called it's a bit of a lengthy name, but it's the Expat Partner Portable Career Program. I think
okay,
I might need to rename it because it's a little wordy.
yep, yep,
But it is a program where for people who are starting at the beginning, not even sure what they want to do with their careers. And I think that's actually the best place to start. I think if you are a blank slate and you can really dive deep and do these exercises and have these coaching sessions to figure out what you want to do that's going to actually fill your bucket and make you
hmm,
feel that sense of purpose rather than just doing any job that comes along. I mean, that was my problem as well, as I was thinking, I just want any job. I don't care what it is. I just want to
hmm,
work. And that's not a
right,
great way to go at anything. If you're just wanting any job, you're not going to get anything. Nothing's going to come to you. You have to be specific. And the more specific you can get, which is what this program helps people with, the better.
okay. So it's and as I was listening to you, it's not easy. I'm just kind of thinking of a mobile career that you could just take anywhere. You could start in Texas, then move to Dubai or Canada, and then continue that same line of work. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with your local environment, right? And how you can thrive in that environment, doing whatever it is that you do. But I guess there's the trying to figure out what is a common thread everywhere, right? Of
Yeah,
what you do, and being specific. You kind of gotta be specific on the purpose, but not on the location type of
totally.
thing.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I tell my clients is you have to be very specific on the problem that you're solving. And then
Yep.
those people with that problem will exist hopefully all over the world. So you want to be able to reach people with a specific problem.
Like
And
what? Do you have like a an example
yeah,
of?
definitely. So one example would be social media marketing for coaches. So people like
Okay.
me that are coaches and are not great at doing their own marketing,
Yep.
or don't know how to use the Instagram reels or don't know how the algorithm works and all these things. There are people, and I have a client who actually did this, who became a specialist in social media for coaches. So she has a company that she works on, and she takes that load off of the coaches so they can just do their coaching work, and she does their marketing online for them.
Mm.
And there's coaches all over the world who need that kind of help.
Oh yeah.
There's also like a sleep coach, a baby sleep coach. So
A
that's
what?
again
A baby sleep
sleep
coach?
coach. Yeah. So like if your kid is not
Oh,
sleeping,
I
not
gotcha.
sleeping, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
wow. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's a problem
Okay.
that so many people have, and you can do those consultations online. You don't need to be in person for that. You have a program, you can come up with a program, you can take calls all over the world. So a lot of people end up doing coaching in some way, shape, or form because that is a business that's done online,
Hmm.
and you're not tied to any specific location. So the more online you can be, and the more intangible you can be, the better.
Hmm.
If you're selling a product, then it gets a little more complicated because
Yep.
with sales of tangible goods, there's regulatory issues, there's
Yep.
storage facilities, there's shipping things, there's all of those issues. So if you can sell an intangible service, then that's great.
So it's a lot of what like the digital nomads, right?
Absolutely.
We see are so in vogue right now that are living everywhere for extended periods of time, and they either do software uh, programming, or they do digital marketing, or they do some sort of coaching or therapy online. I also seen a lot of people doing research, people that are authors that just write,
Yeah.
and but I think the big thing, it's always what you were mentioning just before, is the marketing. How do I let people know? And I have an example here at home. My wife, she's a therapist, and with COVID, they needed to go from live sessions to online sessions. And now it happens that people like the online sessions more, right?
Yeah.
And so she has, I think, two or three patients that moved. One went to Dallas, the other one moved to, I want to say, Australia or something.
Mhm.
And so she's able to keep her own clientele, even though physical geography is not a constraint anymore, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that she really needs to do is juggle the time zones now.
Yeah, and
That's
that is the issue. You have to be a little flexible with your time if you're providing a service that requires you to speak to people in different time zones. Definitely not always the easiest,
Yep,
especially if you're moving from, like I did, one time zone that's 10 hours apart from my current time zone.
yep,
But
yep, yep.
the whole
So you,
manageable.
so you got a certification
Yeah.
now. How important is that to distinguish yourself from all the other ones trying to do some sort of consultation or
Yeah.
a coaching, and how
That's a
big is
really
that?
good, really good question. So I did my certification through the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. And that's kind of the gold standard, I would say, of
Okay.
coaching certifications. And I think it comes down mostly, if I had to pick one main reason why it's important, is ethics. So the ICF coaches are held to a very high standards of ethics. And so in order to get our certification, we have to be trained under an accredited coaching school. And then we have to be evaluated on a coaching session to make sure that we're
Hmm.
hitting all of the coaching markers appropriately and responding to clients in an ethical and appropriate manner. There's also an exam involved, and you need to renew your accreditation every 3 years. And that involves mentor coaching, ethics training, core competency training. So it's a lot, and I think that it just makes sure that, or it just ensures that a coach with that certification is
Hmm.
first of all, able to coach. I think people are able to coach without the certification. Some people are just natural coaches and they don't
Mm,
need the training, but it's the ethical standards that I think are the most important.
yep.
I mean, I would
Yep.
want to know if someone was coaching me that they are dealing with my personal information in an ethical manner. They're disposing of any, personal information after a
Hmm.
certain amount of time, that they are just bound by standards of some organization. It's like a doctor or a therapist
Yep.
or anything like that. So I
Yep.
would say it's important. And I think people look for it now as well.
Mm,
So I would recommend, even if someone doesn't think they need it, I think it's still a good thing to have.
cool. Now, I know you, I mean, aside from the career path, um, I know we kind of clicked when we met because of the relocation component
Yeah.
of what we try to kind of promote here with our podcast. So in the relocation angle of things, um, what do you do to support those folks coming into Texas or to Houston in particular, to get their footing into landing softly here?
Yeah. So that's something I started doing just when we moved to Texas. And actually, I kind of wish I was doing it in Dubai because there would have been a huge market for
Oh
that
yeah.
there. People are coming and going there all the time, and there's so much to know. But what I offer here is basically when you're moving to Texas, and Houston in particular is the city I know best since I live here. It's so big. There's so many choices of where to live. And there's so many factors that will influence that choice. We've discussed this on a previous
Hmm.
episode: schools, amenities, safety, all of the things. So
Hmm.
I can do that research for people coming in. And so I would have an initial call with them, get to know them, figure out what they're looking for, what their priorities are, and then I would give them advice and
Yep.
a document that they can refer to about all their different options. And
Yep.
then once people are here, I mean, there's that practical aspect of things. And that's what people always think of immediately is, where am I going to live? Where are my kids going to go to school? What's my neighborhood like? But there's so much more involved in a relocation. And that's where I also come in, is helping people prepare emotionally and prepare the family for a move and make sure they know that there will be ups and downs, and help people with a plan to as to how that they're going to address those challenges. So, I
Yep.
mean, when you move somewhere, you can either have the experience of at first being, oh, this is amazing. I love this so much. This is the best place ever. And then there's a crash where you think, whoa, now I'm not with my family and friends, and things aren't as good as I thought. And it's harder to meet people. And then that's when a lot of people might not stick it out and might think, okay, we're just out of here. We're going back home. So I just want people to know and plan for those bumps
Hmm.
in the road in advance. And so that's part of what I offer as well, is just, and it doesn't require, 10 coaching sessions. This is something that can be done over one or two, where we just talk about what your life is like currently, and then how it's going to change and what you need to do and how to get out there. That's the most important thing I always tell people is, you got to get
But
out there. You got to make your
but you
community.
but you have to actually do it, right? I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
and I think that's being local with, as they say, with the boots on the ground.
Mhm.
You're there, right? And so it's not only the advice, right? Or the coaching in terms of, how to, what you need to do. It's not only mapping it out, but actually supporting locally in case they need to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the accountability. I think once you're
Hmm.
talking about all of these things with someone, you feel accountable both to yourself to follow through, and to your coach, that you want to
Yep.
make sure that you have an idea of what needs to be done. So whether it's what they want to do with their career when they relocate, or whether it's just how they want to make sure they have the best experience possible, it's just good to have a plan and some accountability to actually see it through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. On my side of things, that angle, and again, that's I think where we clicked was I call it a lifestyle concierge. So in the lifestyle concierge, I have different ideas on what that is, based on my clients' goals of relocating, investing, and opening new businesses here in the US or in Texas. Folks usually require all of that, what you just mentioned. You know, they need to understand where they're going to live, what they're going to do, where the school's like, what's the best neighborhood, and all that stuff. But they also need to explore other areas, which are including like visas or legal issues, accounting. They need to understand more on healthcare and education, because in many cases, people do have a specific reason why they move, which could be a job, it could be education for their kids or for themselves, or they might need to move because of health issues. So one of my recent clients, I had been going back and forth to Houston because they needed to move to Houston because the issue that they needed to going to be close to or solve was a medical issue. So they needed to be close to the medical center, right? And so lifestyle concierges kind of covers those requirements, but it's also a aspiration, right? That's sort of the next thing. It's like they just want to have a broader lifestyle. They might not want to permanently move, but they want to have an option, or a second residence here. Or it could be, which we deal with in other countries as well, right? So like if you want to have a second residence in Portugal or in Costa Rica or southern Mexico, we could do that. But I think lifestyle concierge, it's more about understanding your lifestyle, the requirements of your personal, family, but also what you aspire to. And I think today there is so much that you can do because of technology, because of transportation, because everything, even though it might get expensive to travel around, is fairly accessible now than it was, maybe 10, 15 years ago. You can now live in Europe and have a second home here or somewhere else. I mean, it's not that rare. So my sort of angle to all of this is how can you fulfill a lifestyle that you want, right? And that usually involves the logistics part of it, where and how am I going to live in different places, but also a lot of my clients deal with either entrepreneurs that want to open new businesses or they want to invest somewhere else. So in the private office model that I have, I include four basic areas, which is, the most important one is the lifestyle that we want to kind of help them live what they actually want to aspire to. The other one is setting up companies and businesses here. The third one is doing investing, more specifically around real estate. And the fourth one, which is the other sort of necessity, which is all the legality and admin and management around doing everything, right? Opening a company, getting your lawyer, getting your accounting right, getting, all the stuff that nobody wants to do or doesn't really understand that they need to have that. It's sort of like the back office, right? So in our sort of model of a private office, instead of sending clients to different experts, we develop the relationships with those experts like you to be able to holistically advise clients on how to do business, how to invest, how to relocate, right? And so we just closed a new partnership uh, with a company which we'll announce it in a couple of days. They're focused on philanthropic advisory, right? So people are not only investing in their business or a new venture that could be opening a brand new business or buying a franchise or buy a new company or investing. Now we have the new spoke in that sense to invest in impact giving, right? Through this new company. And so these are the key partners that we have, from golden visa experts to the excellent relocation guides to the lawyers and accountants that we need. So at the end, that holistic conversation and just being sort of the catch-all and just helping people just have one conversation and we manage the whole process. It's what it's been very useful for them. But the biggest thing is this whole concierge and relocation and helping people get their footing in a new place. So that's why I think what you do is critical for these expats, right? Because people need, they need to be happy, right? And we've spoken about this before many times. If the family is not happy with the new lifestyle, then people are just going to go back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it sounds like, I mean, for what you do, sounds like a huge time saver and headache saver for people. It's one of these things, I'm sure you're so familiar with these visa processes by now, and you
Yeah,
could probably talk to a client and immediately say, this is the best option for you. This is the
yeah,
second best option for you. Here we go. And do
yeah.
you find that people coming in to meet with you, do they have an idea of the visas here, or are they a blank slate and you have to educate them? How does that normally
Well,
work?
and you've probably seen this too. People flick through their phone, right? And there's tons of posts about people, saying A, B, or C idea. And so people already come with a predetermined idea of what they heard,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, the most typical one has been the if I want to move to the US under an investment visa, I have to do the EB-5, the popular $1 million EB-5, right? And so I can't because I don't have $1 million. And so you have to go through the process of letting them understand that there is tons of other options, right? I mean, I had clients that we started with a student visa for them, for the adults, to study English that could get them in the country and then do whatever else they wanted to do, right? Um, our other new partnership is with visafranchise.com, and they help us identify franchises that are low cost, and it's an easy way to get the E2 visas, which is the investor visa, which does not give you a path to a green card or citizenship, but it gives you the right to live and go to school and work and everything in the US for every 5 years that the renewal happens at a very low cost, right? There are franchises that could go from 60, 70, 80,000, right? And so it's a proven method, and that's what the approval process requires, that it's something that it's real, right? And that you're not going to fail. And so a franchise has always been very popular.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think not everyone actually wants a green card. I think we have this
No,
impression that that's what everyone wants.
yeah,
Not everyone wants
not
to
everybody.
actually have that,
Yep,
level of commitment to being
yep,
here. But it's
yep.
really interesting when you mention these franchises. And I know we've talked about how there's this incredible wealth transfer that's happening now from the
Hmm.
boomers and selling their
Yep.
businesses. And there's a lot of opportunity to buy a business and or take over a
Oh,
business and
yeah.
franchise. So I think that there would be a lot of opportunities. Is that what some of your clients end up doing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just kind of, again, I think it's all about letting them. I really started with helping clients from a blank, like a blank slate, right? Like let's understand your preferences, your skills, what you want to go. I'll give you a bunch of options. But then some people don't want so many options, right? They just want, like, give me three doors, right?
Yeah.
And explain to me what's behind door number two, right? And so that's why we started doing a more of a turnkey solution. Like if you just want something that is going to get you here, it's going to get you the visa, it's going to get you a business, we'll do a franchise or identify a company that you could acquire, right?
Yeah.
If you want to develop your own business, then we could get into the strategic planning, setting up, sessions to come up with a new business. Likewise with investing, right? In real estate, people sometimes don't really know where or how or what's a good deal. So our turnkey solution there is single family rentals, right? We'll do everything, right? Completely everything. We'll manage from opening the LLC to getting the tenant and managing the home. And that's it, right? They don't have to do anything and they have their money sparked. Or if they want to be a more sophisticated sort of tailored investing, it's like then we look for specific things that they could do. So we have sort of the entry level kind of like turnkey and the more tailored solutions for both things. And the lifestyle and the soft landing is are just essentials for what you're going to need to handle, right? So
Right. And so for people listening, what would be I know you work with all kinds of different clients, so there's
yeah.
not, the one typical client,
Mhm.
but what would your general client profile be if someone was thinking, how much money do they need to be
Yeah.
investing in order to work with you, or what kind of family are we talking about here?
So so I think there is a number. Everybody wants that number, right? Everybody
Mhm.
wants, so how much do I need?
Yeah.
And so I think I've grown to be comfortable of saying between 100 and 150,000.
Hmm.
I think that is a good number to either buy a franchise or start a business. Now, that does not consider your living expenses while you at that job or that business, right?
Right.
Um, because many people say, okay, that's what I had, that's perfect, but then you gotta pay rent, right, or buy a home or something. So
Hmm.
it's so there's a period of and that's why I think franchises are so good because they start generating money right away,
Right.
right? Like if you open a brand new business, you might go out of business, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you never know. There's more risk on coming up with especially if you don't have the backup in terms of finances, right? To kind of hold for 2 years, right? To make it successful. Uh, uh, like for example, there's I always love telling this story, but there's this pizza place, right? That in 6 months they started selling 1,000 pizzas a week, right? And it's a good business, right? I mean, you're not gonna become like a billionaire overnight,
Mhm.
but it's stable. It covers your costs for both the business and living expenses, and it gives you more wiggle room to do other things, right? And so in our sort of job is really to be their sort of business manager, right? It's like,
Mhm.
and so 100 to 150 is a good number. For E2 visas, takes about 6 months.
Mhm.
Um, and again, I think it's important to consider planning a year before that you want to do all of these things because people all of a sudden are like, well, I want to be there by summer, right? And it's like May.
Mhm.
No. So there are different ways, right? But yeah, I would say those are the typical thresholds.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, I think the turnkey element of what you do would be so appealing to so many people.
Yep.
And I know you've mentioned there's other options if people want to be more involved, or let's say they're further down the process. They've maybe even already got their visa, but they need help
Mhm.
with other things, like you mentioned, even healthcare or schooling or those kind of things. Is that there's still opportunities there for you to work with them?
Oh yeah. I mean, for example, a client, well, it wasn't even a client, it was a friend of a client. And they called me and said, hey, listen, unfortunately, my grandmother passed away. She lived in Texas. And my mom hasn't been able to get the money from the insurance, right? For some reason. And we've been at it for months and we just haven't been able to crack that code. And I'm like, okay, so let me just call them, right? And see what the problem is. And so I called the company, the insurance company, as a representative of the family, right? So it sounded like a lawyer calling them, type
Yeah.
of thing, right? It's like, well, it's Williams Advisors calling on behalf of so and so, and we've got to figure out what the problem is. And so it's a completely different thing, right? And so it's not so much what you say. Sometimes it's the messenger in many instances, and I've seen that more than once. And so it was just people didn't really understand what the other person needed, right? And then we resolved that issue. It wasn't like a big deal or anything, but like in 1 month, they were able to cash their check. So they were happy with that. They thought that was a miracle work, but it was just kind of being able to have this cultural understanding of what the insurance company needed, right? More than anything. And
Yeah,
the
that
same thing.
probably just
Hmm.
cuts through so much red tape and time just to have that understanding of how things
Yeah.
work here. And that's very valuable. I
Same
know
thing
that,
happened with schools and vaccinations, for example,
mhm,
right? Same thing. It's like, what do I need? Well, I need a piece of paper, and let me call your doctor back home and let him know what exactly needs to put on that piece of paper, so the school in Tomball High School in Houston could actually let them, enroll them. And
mhm,
so it's more about that cultural understanding, which is so key.
yeah, yeah. Well, I know you and I are in the process of putting together a little document for our listeners
Yep.
that will have some of this information as a quick
Yep.
reference guide so that I know it's a lot to take in, especially with
Yep.
different visa types and investing. So that should be, I think, available soon. So people can look out for that, and
Yes.
I'll link it in our episodes. Maybe by the time
Yep.
this airs, it'll even be linked.
Yes.
And so I know that that would be a great jumping off point for people. And then they can
Hmm.
obviously get in touch with you or me for
Yep.
information about what we offer.
Yep. I mean, and I think we're both always available for a chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the 30-minute chat that a lot of people promote.
Mhm.
I mean, I get like sometimes I chat for like 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
But it's fine. I mean, people just need, somebody to kind of, help them. And
Yeah.
so I think we're both so in line on that purpose. So
Yeah.
that's why I think we kind of complement each other so well, and hopefully we'll get a chance to help more people through that listen to us on this podcast.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right,
Well, I
cool,
think that's
perfect.
a
Well,
lot of information for today, but that was
oh yeah,
great. I always love hearing about what you do. You do so many things.
yes, yep, yeah, except sleep.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
but anyway, but that's great. So we'll leave a lot of different notes on here, and obviously our contact information and whatnot. But please don't stop coming back every week, every Wednesday. We have every episode drops around 9 o'clock on Wednesday Central Time. So please come back, and we hope to be able to help you at some point in your adventure into Texas or anywhere else.
Yep. Great. Well, I'll chat with you next week.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Have a
Take
good one.
care. Bye.
Bye bye. That's a wrap of another episode of the Global Me podcast.
If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow global explorers.
Connect with us on social media and let us know where your global journey is taking you next. We might even invite you to the show to share your stories.
Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep creating your best global life.